listeners, if you are someone who's questioning all those pronouns people are throwing around these days, he, she, they, it, whatever, then you are going to love this practical spirituality tip number 3 with TNT Spirit Works about spiritual pronouns. Hey,
Spiritual
Tom,
pronouns.
let's talk
Hello,
about
Teresa.
let's talk about spiritual pronouns.
All right. I look forward to that.
So for myself, I do a lot of work out in the world with other communities. And the one thing that I've been taught and gone through with the Wayshowers College, the training and in my understanding of how to speak from the first person. So that's what we really want to talk about and share about today, because this makes such a difference when you're sharing and when you're interacting with other people. So again, so say we're talking with somebody and they are talking about they and them and us and we and
You.
you. And it's really putting that outside of them. So for myself, and Tom also included, which he'll obviously give his little input in a minute here, about is really speaking from the first person. So let's talk about that, Tom.
Okay. Well, my experience has been that when I speak from the first person, I really absorb what I'm sharing. I need people to, I'm going to practice it here, folks. I need people to share with, to learn and grow from. There's, as we've said before, there's, many levels of consciousness here on planet Earth. And then the reason that I'm here is to grow through experience, and I can grow faster when I'm working with many levels of consciousness or different levels of consciousness. So it's important that when I share with, I need people to share with. That's the bottom line, to help me put my wisdom, what I'm gaining from my experiences together. It's important that I have other people to share with. So as I share, I find that spirit moves in and the penny will drop. I'll have my aha moments, usually like when I'm sharing on something like, oh, the other day I was thinking about this and I was wondering whether I should do that. And then, I check with my guidance and I got, an answer. And then I share about the answer. And then I'm sharing with Teresa, like, hey, Teresa, I never looked at it from this way before, but my guidance opened my eyes to this other perspective, the positive way of how I'm attracting that experience and what I can do about it. And then as I'm sharing with her, usually a little more insight comes in. So I'm getting that outflow. But if I'm always putting it in the, second person or third person, it's like I'm detaching myself from the whole experience. So the purpose when we have programs is we often encourage people to say, I experienced that. I think this, I think that. And, it also helps us respect where everybody's at. Everybody might be at a different place, and I respect what Teresa shares, and that feels good. So, try it. You'll notice that when people get real intellectual about spiritual things, and maybe they even start preaching, they start putting it outside themselves. And I can make it more practical, what I'm going through spiritually, or these spiritual ideas more relevant in my life if I start to take it on board, in the first person. I can feel you have something you'd like to share.
Well, that is funny you say feeling, because that is exactly what I feel when I am speaking in the first person about situations. And that's what I feel that that people are speaking more from their intellect and not from their true feelings, which is that kind, loving part of us, not our emotions, our true feelings. So being able to speak from that first person versus, like Tom is talking about, like putting it outside of us is such I hate to say the cliche game changer, because I do say that a lot in my when I'm doing my social media stuff. I say game changer because it's a game changer for myself. But I will tell you, it was challenging the first few months and first couple, actually probably more than a year, when I started understanding how to speak from the first person and keeping it relating to my perspective and what I'm going through versus what you are going through, listener.
Right. And, if I think about it, the first thought that comes to mind for me is that anytime someone starts sharing, well, you do this and you experience that and this and that, even when people are being interviewed, about their experience, and they'll say, well, you this and you that. And I thought, well, no, not me, you. I don't relate to what you're saying. I don't have the same reactions that you have. I sometimes do. Some of what, you share, I relate to. So I think as you were, mentioning, to be clear, what Teresa was sharing, my opinion, is that when I'm intellectually sharing rather than coming from my true feelings and just using my intellect to use the right words, the right language, we need that programming. But then when I'm sharing from my intellect, I start preaching, so that's, and no one learns from someone preaching. I mean, we listen to it, and maybe the way I would experience it, so I'm going to keep practicing this first person because I don't want to assume that you have that same experience. Is, when I hear it, it sounds like someone's preaching to me, and I may not even relate to half the stuff they say, the thing that they're sharing about. I mean, no, I don't get caught in that. So, what do you think about preaching? How does that feel to you when people preach at you?
Well, yeah, that's again, and I get the sense of, especially like speaking from their mind versus their heart, or their mind versus their soul, and excuse me, and taking that out of themselves and into the second person, the second, so that's, yeah, that's what it feels like to me. And it doesn't, for myself and the training I've had and the way that I go about trying to keep it in the first person for myself when I'm speaking to other people or out in public, it feels more real. It feels more like I'm sharing a perspective of myself, and I'm not putting my energy or my experience on anybody else.
Yeah, and I'm not holding back what I'm sharing. If I say you this and they that, then somehow I'm detaching myself, from that. Get up close to the mic there. Don't detach from the mic. And I think that for me, sharing in the first person is where the healing can actually begin to work. So as I have my aha moments, or I gain my clarity from working with my guidance and sharing my experience and what I learned and what this means to me and what that means to me, I can't assume that I don't need to save anybody, number one. So I don't need to tell them, well, you this and you that, because we're our own best guru. When we work with our guidance and our true feelings, we really become a lean, clean, kind of spiritual machine. Now, to play the game of society, I will say you this and they that and we this. It's a little bit about what people expect. And, so it's not a sin to say it this other way, but it's just, if you want to make this more real and really gain that spiritual healing for yourself, then I would share more in the first person. And
So it's just
anything you'd like to say about
I
that?
just want to say it's just a suggestion. So that's
just a suggestion.
Yeah, that's our practical spirituality tip number 3 for today is just try it out, listeners, and see if you can incorporate more of that first person, speaking from the first person whenever you're out and about doing your work.
Yeah, I think you might find
connecting.
I find, I got to watch it. I find it's more acceptable to people that the message that I want to share, when I share from my experience and I share in the first person, is more easily taken on board if I do want to provide some insight for folks or help out or whatever. And thank you for letting me share.
You are so welcome, Thomas. So anyway, thanks guys for listening into another mini morsel episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. We're excited to be here twice a week now and sharing with you some mini morsel episodes. So until next week,
remember
that life is too short
not to be enthusiastic about
your unique journey. Hey everyone, for a spiritual perspective that you won't find anywhere else but right here, please make sure you subscribe.